Good, happy Sunday morning. I'm Riley King, and welcome to Politics right here on the Riley King Network. Let's get started. First up, Sununu education picks will help shape schools' futures. New Hampshire Governor-elect Chris Sununu will make key education appointments in his first 3 months in office, affording the Republican considerable power to shape the direction of public education in the state. Sununu takes office in January as New Hampshire's first Republican governor in a dozen years. He'll immediately have to make 3 appointments to the 7-member State Board of Education, which approves education standards and charter school applications and set guidelines for school curriculum. He'll also choose a Commissioner of Education in March when Commissioner Virginia Barry's term ends. A Sununu spokesman declined to say whether Sununu would reappoint Barry or choose someone new. The person he picks for the job could determine whether New Hampshire continues to explore competency-based education, SCOPS, Common Core, and open more charter schools. And with power to sign and veto legislators, he will likely determine whether full-day kindergarten moves forward in more districts and if students can opt out of standardized tests. Sununu said early on in his campaign he wanted to gut the Board of Education. He has declined. He wants to end Common Core and increase school choice. The Common Core standards created and adopted on the state level have been under attack for several years in New Hampshire and elsewhere. The mostly Republican criticized says the standards are confusing and overemphasize testing and federal government involvement. The board adopted the reading and math standards years ago and most recently approved new science standards. No school district in New Hampshire is required to adopt Common Core, and some have created their own standards, still criticizing they're counting on Sununu to make good on his promise and end New Hampshire's participation entirely. Sununu also could
Is there any way you can get an oil change today?
appoint pro-Carter school member to the board to ensure more schools open. At the Department of Education, New Hampshire is adopting a series of measures aimed at de-emphasizing standard testing. For example, 11th graders now take the SAT as their high school test rather than take the SAT for college admission and Common Core allied exams. Also, the state recently begun a pilot program for competency-based education called PACE. Sununu support the PACE program and plans to continue it, his spokesman said. During his campaign, he criticized what he said was an overbase of testing in schools. Democratic State Rep Mary Heath, a former educator, said she's worried the new governor and his fellow Republicans will stop progress made at the Department of Education. And there you go on that report. Trump team pushes back on reports Russian hacks sought to sue election. Let's take a listen to this video from ABC News. Sorry about that. We're having a little technical difficulties. Please give us a moment. Okay, I guess our video does not want to play. We're having a little technical difficulties with the video.
Get straight to our top story. Donald Trump overnight in snowy Grand Rapids, Michigan. His first visit on his ongoing thank you tour to one of the so-called blue wall states that delivered his campaign that surprise victory in November.
This morning, the president-elect's transition team finding itself in a war of words with America's intelligence agencies. Now, these agencies, according to two new published reports, have concluded that Russia was deliberately working to sway the election towards Trump through its hacking.
We've got team coverage of this story this morning. We're going to start with ABC's Mary Bruce, who's right there at the White House. Mary, good morning to you.
Good morning. Well, for months, the U.S. government has suspected that Russia intentionally interfered with the U.S. presidential election, intentionally hacking into emails from the DNC and those close to Hillary Clinton. But this morning, intelligence agencies have reportedly concluded that Russia intended to do far more than just meddle. This morning, the Washington Post reporting that a secret CIA report found Russia interfered in the U.S. election to help Donald Trump win the White House. Individuals connected to the Russian government reportedly provided WikiLeaks with hacked emails as part of a wider Russian operation to boost Trump and hurt Clinton's chances.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
And the New York Times reporting intelligence agencies found Russia also hacked the RNC, but did not release whatever information they gleaned from the Republican network. Overnight, Trump's transition team was swift to respond, questioning the credibility of the CIA. In a statement saying these are the same people that said Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction.
I mean, it could be Russia, but it could also be China. It could also be lots of other people. It also could be somebody sitting on their bed that weighs 400 pounds, okay? You don't know who broke in to DNC.
Intelligence agencies ultimately concluded that Russia was behind the hacking, but Trump has repeatedly shrugged it off.
U.S. intelligence agencies believe the Russians are behind that leak. Why don't you believe it?
I don't know if they're behind it, and I think it's public relations, frankly.
Negotiating relations with Russia will be a challenge for Trump's next Secretary of State. Rudy Giuliani, once a top contender, has taken himself out of the running.
I saw that he had so many good candidates available. I mean, there was no reason to complicate his life any longer.
In a statement, Trump said Giuliani is and continues to be a close personal friend. Mitt Romney and ExxonMobil CEO Rex Tillerson are still among the contenders for Secretary of State, but Giuliani's making clear he thinks Romney should be off that list.
My advice would be Mitt went just a little too far. You can make friends and make up, but I would not see him as a candidate for the cabinet.
And this morning, Trump is already tweeting, praising Giuliani as one of the finest people he knows. Now, here at the White House, there's no comment this morning on Russia's involvement in the election, but President Obama's made clear he wants to get to the bottom of this. He's already ordered a full review of the hacking, says he wants a report before he leaves office next month. Dan and Paula?
All right, Mary, so many questions.
Okay, and there you go on that report. Supreme Court deliberations on execution kept quiet. Let's take a listen to this video from CNN.
Between life and death.
For Partners in Health, time is life. We have 18,000 people around the world. The Microsoft Cloud helps our entire staff stay connected and work together in real time to help those that need it.
The ability to collaborate changes how we work. What we do together changes how we live.
Penalty is one of the most controversial issues in the country. Just as controversial, the methods of execution. There are 5 different legal methods of execution in the U.S. Human rights activists say that each can cause unnecessary suffering, and each method has been called cruel and unusual. One study found that between 1900 and 2011, about 3% of all U.S. executions were botched, and the rate for lethal injection may be even higher. During a lethal injection, an anesthetic is supposed to put the inmate to sleep. A second drug then causes paralysis, and a final drug stops the prisoner's heart. But it doesn't always go by the book, and sometimes the drugs are administered incorrectly by the technician. A 2005 study found that 21 of 49 executed prisoners had anesthesia levels consistent with consciousness, meaning they may have been aware of what was happening but unable to express pain. Then there's the electric chair. 500 to 2,000 volts are sent through the inmate's body. If after 30 seconds he or she is still alive, the process is repeated. A Supreme Court justice once described electrocutions as extremely violent. Witnesses have seen inmates vomiting blood, they've smelled burning skin, and occasionally the body actually catches on fire. When the gas chamber was introduced in the 1920s, it was intended to be a more humane alternative. Inmates are instructed to inhale deeply when they get in so that they die more quickly, but witnesses have reported seeing inmates hold their breath and then choking or gagging for several minutes. Hanging is the most common execution method worldwide. In theory, when the inmate drops, the neck breaks and death is instantaneous. But if the rope is too long or too short, the inmate will asphyxiate or die from a lack of oxygen. There are also reports of firing squad executions going wrong. Typically, 5 shooters load 30 caliber rifles and aim for the heart, but if the shooters miss, the inmate can bleed out slowly. It reportedly took 27 minutes before one inmate died. Some death penalty advocates say the guillotine, which is not used in the U.S., is the most effective and the least painful method of execution. But, as one federal judge wrote in 2014, many think it's inconsistent with our national ethos.
Okay, and that does it for politics right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great rest of your Sunday. Goodbye, everyone.